Wonderful. All right. So I got to go over here real quick. Stand by. Perfect. Now we're good. Here we go. Good morning, everybody. This is session 9 of Ignite. We will continue next week with 10, 11, and 12 on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. We do that because we protect Tuesdays and Thursdays for Fight Club. I know more and more of you are attending Fight Club, which we love. The numbers are growing insofar as people attending Fight Club, and the results are growing as well. So please book your face Tuesdays and Thursdays for 9 o'clock and join us at Fight Club. It's helping people build their databases and their businesses. It's hyper important. Can't say it enough. Zoe and I don't put stuff in the calendar for busy work. We put it on the calendar, so we put your face in the right place. So join us for that. Let's get into it. Session 9 of Ignite, capturing more leads. So we're going to talk more about lead generation. I know that's not exactly thrilling, but I do appreciate for those of you that are here. And we're in the lead generation pillar. This is the final segment. Next week, we're going to jump into lead follow-up. And Monday will be keep every lead. And that's just about, staying in touch with people after the fact. We tend to orphan people at the closing table, and we'll talk more about that next week. If you're playing from home or anywhere and you want to grab this, Zoe went above and beyond the Call of Duty and created a KWCLM specific workbook for you guys. So you can follow along at home with the activities, because we're going to ask you to write some stuff down along the way. Some people are auditory learners and they're just good to sit and listen. I tend to be that way. I will sit with my, unintended, remarkably expensive remarkable, and I'll just listen to somebody talk because I do a better job pulling that in. We'll be at big events and Kaylee's taking ridiculous notes and Zoe's taking ridiculous notes, and I just listen. And 6 months later, even though I'm old and senile with gray hair, I'm the one that usually remembers what they said on stage 6 months ago. So whether you're an auditory learner, a visual learner, or kinesthetic learner, taking notes is helpful for you, even if you don't download the notebook. And scribing some notes, it helps you sort of learn it twice in the moment, if that makes any sense. Derek Kelly is with us, and he just said that he is actually reading, God help him, reading a physical book. The one thing, good man. I said it was an airplane read, and he flew out to see family in San Diego, and he started reading it. So it's sidebar. We're way off track already. Welcome to Friday, everybody. Sidebar on books and audiobooks. I think people that enjoy to listen to an audiobook, which can be really cool, especially if the author has a great voice and they actually read their own book, that can be really cool. My concern is if you are passively listening to the book, you're not retaining it. So I have a MAPS coach. I had a MAPS coach a handful of years ago, and she challenged me. She's like, if you are doing audiobooks in your car, because I'd listen to maybe 30 to 45 minutes in between offices on certain days when I travel. And she's like, when you get to where you're going, before you go into the office, write down 3 questions you would ask the class based on what you just read if you were going to teach that to the class. So I think it's wildly important that if you are listening to audiobooks as opposed to actually reading them, that you make sure that you're retaining them and not just passively hearing the book, you're actually listening, if that makes any sense. So today we're going to talk about systems that work for capturing more leads, prospecting versus marketing. We touched on, we'll go a little bit deeper on that. Goldmine for referrals, and then more successes, capturing every lead, and then we'll do some recaps and ahas. That's going to take us right up to probably just close to 11 o'clock. At 11 o'clock, we are going to stay here, but I'm going to shut it down for the sake of the recording, and we'll come back right back to the same room. So if you jump back into the same link from the morning news, or just come back to Keller Ignite, we'll be doing the 6th and final segment of Powering Through a Shift, and that's from 11 to 1, right after Ignite. Gary Keller from the book called Shift. You love people, but at the same time, you haven't yet learned to love hunting for them, right? Zoe and I have meetings with you guys when you get started in the industry, when you first join our company, and everybody's just like, you know what, Zoe, you know what, Timmy, I love people and I love houses. And if I could put people in houses, well, that'd be just swell. Well, I need your audio to match your video. If you really love people, and I don't think anybody's just like, I hate people, and actually, you know what? Everybody always says hate's a strong word. And just to get away from that, I no longer say that I hate anybody. I always say, I will reference, I am challenged by somebody's existence. I think that's a nice way to put it. So it's a little wordy, but I like it. It sounds better than you hate somebody. I don't think anybody actually hates anybody. And sometimes people don't want to use the word love because that's a strong word. So if you really like people, if you really want to be of service, and ask yourself on your toughest days in real estate, why did you get started? What was the thing that made you say, I'm going to go get my license? I'm going to go do this thing. We have to remind ourselves quite often, especially in this industry, because it can feel like eating rocks and banging your face against the wall at the same time. Sometimes, why did we get started? What was the passion that ignited you to say, I'm going to go do this thing? I'm going to go bet on myself. And if you love people, but at the same time, you are on the struggle bus with tracking them down, let's think about how we're doing it or how we're not doing it. Are you forcing yourself to do something that's not natural for you? And if that's the case, well, then let's approach things a different way. And this is why when you get here, Zoe has you do the disc and the KPA. So she and I can both help you guys find your genius zone. There's a corner of the sandbox we all play in best. And sometimes because we see certain people having successes in certain arenas, we're like, well, that must be how it gets done. Now, I'm never going to tell you not to pick up the phone, but above and beyond that arrow in your quiver, what else are you going to do to make sure that you're talking to your people, communicating with people on a regular basis, and showing up in the gap? We're going to talk today about the differentiation between when somebody buys and sells a house. And that's a pretty big gap in between transactions for most Americans. And if we're not showing up as a human in that moment, it's not great. When you only show up when they're pulling out their checkbook, they're going to smell commission breath on you. And that's not cool. That's not going to be building a legacy. Also in Shift, Gary says your number one job is to find ways to get in the path of motivated buyers and sellers, right? Ultimately, the art of what we do is to go where money is changing hands and get in between those people. Now, I said that, and I want to jump into a hot shower with a steel brush. That sounds salesy and gross and smarmy. I understand that. Think of it a different way. You've got two people that want to do an exchange of goods, which happens to be a property. And there's going to be terms and conditions. And if you get to pick the terms of the contract, then you don't necessarily get to choose the conditions. And we get in between our clients ultimately, not in a bad way, but the brokers are supposed to be in between the civilians to extract emotion. Everything we do in this job can be emotional, especially if you're sitting and you're grinding and you're making calls for your next appointment. When we go into service for our clients, we're there to extract emotion. And the pay for our service is what this is talking about. Find ways to get in the path of motivated buyers and sellers. Go be part of the transaction. When we run your numbers in your phone, how many people do you have in your phone? Take that number, multiply it by 6%, because that's the national average. 6% of the American people in the next 12 months are going to buy, sell, or invest in real estate. So you can curate that down to your phone and say, okay, if that's in my phone, if my phone's a piece of America, then 6% of the people in my phone are going to buy, sell, or invest. And then I get pushback. And then, well, based on the number that I just got, Tim, I didn't do that business last year. Well, I completely appreciate you didn't invite your face to the business last year. You can have 6% of the buying, selling American people in your phone and never talk to them. We talk about this all the time. People are like, oh, I don't want to bother anybody. I get that. But if we're picking up the phone, just have a conversation with them. And then they know somebody who wants to buy, sell, and invest. You didn't call and say, and I don't ever want you to do this. I think a lot of people think that Zoe and I want you to be super schmarmy, like pick up the phone, be salesy. Everybody says they don't want to be salesy. Then don't be salesy. Be a human. We want for you more than anything else is to have a business that you're running where you're putting on events and having engagements with your people, and the real estate's the background music. Because you will in your career have some people, we talk about this all the time, well cared for over the course of your career. People will be in your database, will send you 5 to 6 transactions, well cared for over the course of your career. People will send you 5 to 6 transactions. And what you need to know, we say 5 to 6 because that 6th one might or might not be them. Some of your closest people don't want you in their sock drawer. I don't need Tim knowing that I had a bankruptcy. I don't want Tim to know that my fiance is a psychopath and just got out of jail. I'm joking. I'm not joking. Who knows what it is? But they feel like we're going to find out everything about them. And that's fine too, because I'm telling you right now, the people that are closest to you will take the most license I always use the analogy of the dentist. If you were in oral care and one of your friends rolls into your office, jumps into your chair, kicks back and says, I need a filling, I need a cleaning, I need a cap, and this is going to be free, right? Because we're cool. We went to college together. You'd be like, no, stupid. I'm really good at what I do. My services are X, but they'll do that with us in real estate. Like you're willing, like I don't owe you commission for this, right? We're friends. We're cool. We're bros, right? Nope. And for that reason and above and beyond that, just in general, because they will take license, and think that they have special treatment. It's sometimes good to send them to somebody else and refer them out for sure. So the 2 M's of lead generation, the message and the method. It's almost like, think about, we want to talk about the consistency and the context of what we're discussing. So what is your message that you want to get out to make sure that you are finding more business? Are you sending something out that matches the market? Right now, are you doing a missing property report? How many of us have an active buyer right now that is signed into your business? When Zoe and I ask you guys about your vital signs, we always say active signed buyers. Because if we asked you active buyers, you'd be pointing out the window and say, Tim, see that crowd over there? They're all going to buy one day, and they're probably all going to work with me. You've got people actively working with you because they signed a buyer's agency agreement. How many of those people haven't yet found what they're looking for on the market? That gives us a hunting license. So now I can put together a missing persons report. It's like the house that they want, or a missing property report, I should say. The house that they want is on the back of a milk carton, right? So how do you put that ad out? Maybe that's what you're sending out. And are you sending out to a certain neighborhood where homes like that exist? Or are you just putting it out to your sphere on social media and saying, who do you know that we should know that owns a craftsman style home? Because you can give all the information. It's funny, and there is a line, don't get me wrong. But if I'm working with the Lindsays and the Lindsays are looking for a craftsman style home on the seacoast and their budget is X, you can put their budget as long as it's real. No, I shouldn't even say as long as it's realistic, but you can put as much information out as you want. Like, I think it's a really good idea when you're talking about getting a house for a buyer. I would have no problem if I was door knocking and I had somebody who was desperate, is the word I would use, to get into the south end of Portsmouth. They want to be in Little Harbor School District, and I'm door knocking. And I get to Allison Burridge's house and I knock and hey, Mrs. Burridge, how are you? It's Tim Lindsay from Keller Williams. Wanted to introduce myself. Hey, I've got some buyers that are desperate to move to South Dover, or South Portsmouth, I should say. I've got pushback when I've said that before. People are like, well, I would never say that. You're putting them in a bad spot. It does. When I use the word desperate on a Tuesday afternoon on Allison's doorstep, it doesn't mean we're going to make a maniacal offer 2 days later on paper. I can say that she's desperate to move and still make a sensible offer. And I'm not trying to use clickbait words either, but I want to use words that grab people's attention. When I door knock, if I'm knocking on a door of a house that my client picked out and said, hey, Timmy, it's not on the market, can you go see if they're willing to list? And I knock and I get Talena comes to the door. Hey, Talena, Tim Lindsay from Keller Williams. I've got clients that want to move into this neighborhood. Specifically, they love your house. I don't know if you guys have considered listing or you're thinking about moving in the next 10, 20, or 30 minutes. I said that all the time. Because when you say it like that, they're like, they've never heard anybody say that, first and foremost. Like, you thinking about moving in the next 35 years? Like, there's no urgency there. But if I say, if you're thinking about moving in the next 10, 20, or 30 minutes, they're like, well, probably not that quick. Most people took it in stride, but it got their attention and actually kept the conversation moving forward. So we have to be thoughtful about the message and the method. Now, the method, of course, also goes to prospecting and marketing. And we talked about this quite a bit. Marketing is passive. Marketing will probably involve more of our money than our time, because we might hire somebody to do some marketing for us. If you're good at marketing, awesome. Because if you are good at marketing, you can put something together that it's not cost prohibitive for you, but it took some of your time away. And as your coach, I want all of you to be spending most of your time getting that next person that you can help serve. So marketing, for the most part, especially the stuff that's baked into Command, we already have access to. You can put something together or have somebody put something together, and then you push it out into the universe, and it's sort of sitting there. It's a set it and forget it sort of mindset. And there could be a call to action as well. But ultimately, it doesn't involve the best part of you, which is, we talk about this, the math is super important, right? 7% of our power is the words we choose. 43% is the passion and tonality in which we deliver those words. And the additional 50% is our body language. A static picture of you on a billboard, even with a call to action, even if you think you're beautiful, even if you think you put a pithy statement on the billboard, isn't as powerful as you leaning off the billboard and saying, hey, what are your hopes and dreams for real estate? That's going to move the needle a little bit more. So we want to be prospecting based, marketing enhanced. And I always use food analogies, because why not? Like the prospecting base, that's always the ugh. But I always say this, like everyone's had that cupcake and the cupcake's super dry, but the frosting's fantastic. You powered through the cupcake, is like super dry, and I mean, and look at me, I've enjoyed all the cupcakes, right? But I've never got a cupcake, I'm like, it's really dry, I'm not going to finish it. No, give me a glass of milk, I'll power through, right? So it's very dull and dry and boring and mundane, the prospecting. It's not the fun part. Our creativity and our marketing, what we consider to be the sexiest part of our business, that goes on top. That enhances everything. But we have to have the systems and the models and the foundational practices of being prospecting based to make sure we're having enough conversations, to make sure we have enough families to serve. The marketing enhances all that. It's super important that you do have something in the background representing you while you're not around. Marketing ultimately is out there because absent a relationship with you, all they have is your reputation. They did a study that I saw something most recently on social media, which is fascinating. A group of guys were on a podcast. They were talking about just marketing in general, and they chose to do something with real estate. And they went and they knocked this neighborhood and keep knocking doors, talking to people. And they asked everyone in this, it was probably in Florida. And if you've ever been in a neighborhood in Florida, like you walk out in the street and there's 4,000 houses that way and 4,000 houses that way. So they crushed this neighborhood in Florida. They knocked on all these doors and they kept asking everybody, who's the top real estate agent in your neighborhood? And they got a myriad of answers, of course, but there was no strong winner. There was no consistency. So they went back. And you could easily do this now with AI, which is ridiculous. But they went back and they made up a fake realtor. They then proceeded to do a smart plan of sorts. And they started to market with this fake realtor and fake stats and all this stuff to this neighborhood. Maybe 45 days later, maybe 60 days later, they went and they door knocked again. And over 90% of the residents said that this fake realtor, John Q. Citizen real estate agent, was the #1 realtor because of the mind share they created just in 60 days of doing mailers. So you as a real person, let's do the math. If you're a real person and you marketed to a neighborhood that you wanted to take over, do you think it's possible that that could be helpful? They made up an anonymous fake individual and won the hearts and minds of an entire neighborhood just by consistently marketing. So that's wildly important. Marketing is important. It will never out hustle prospecting. And prospecting is going to get easier the more you do it. If you have ever been successful at anything, it's because you kept showing up. You were consistent with it. I think the one thing that everybody could be like, yep, if I'm going to go to the gym, I'm going to go in the morning. It absolutely sucks. I joined a gym with my friend. And the reason I'm showing up right now is because if I don't get there at 4:45, I'm going to let her down. And if that's the 2 scoops of guilt with a side of fries you need to show up, then start showing up. Commit to somebody in our market center. Commit to yourself that you're going to show up Tuesdays and Thursdays for 9 o'clock for Fight Club and be in the room with other people that are making the calls that nobody loves, yet everyone finds success through. We have members of our ALC top producers that have been jumping in as of late. And when you get to a certain stage in your career, and I would argue it's going to be about 5 years in, and the deals start coming back to you organically, it's a lot easier to take your foot off the gas. My question to you as your coach is, what if you never took your foot off the gas? I'm not saying don't go on vacations. I'm not saying don't shut it down at Christmas and Hanukkah. But if it's a random friggin' Friday in April and you've got nothing going on, what's keeping you from slamming your foot to the floor in your vehicle of real estate? Nothing. Your limiting beliefs are holding you back. Maybe your misunderstanding of what you should say, who you should call. We can talk about all that. That's what Tuesdays and Thursdays, 9 to 11 is for. I'm historically always in the room, and I'll tell you guys, and you'll see me on camera. If you have a question while we're doing that, call me. And we can talk about, call me 603-834-2856, 603-834-2856. If you ever have a question or a concern, or you're about to make a phone call, and you're like, what did Tim say I should say? What does Tim say works? A text or a phone. Don't wait until Monday. Didn't want to bother you. If you say you didn't want to bother me about doing lead gen to build your business, then we should just both hold hands in land traffic. I'm here to help you do that. So don't ever fear giving me a call or a text at any time. Usually asleep by midnight. Who's joking? I'm joking. Usually asleep by 9 o'clock. I'm getting old. Anyway, anytime. Just be like, hey, I need a head check. I've got to get my arms around this. Because once you just get comfortable doing it, we've all got friends. Maybe some of you just go to the gym. I run every day. I go to the gym every day. I do whatever every day. I read 3 chapters of a book every day. You had to start, and you had to become consistent, and you had to become comfortably numb with it almost. And then the reason you don't stop is because you start to see results. But there's going to be that waiting period that we call embracing the suck before you start to see some fruits of your labor. And we have to be okay with that. You don't have to be okay with anything. I'm asking you to be okay with that. So when you see people, great first shot here, approach, right? You're at the bar. And think about the environment you're going to sit in. And there's no judgment here, but like, you know, if you think that you are going, let's put some context around this. I want to be involved in $1 million properties. Well, first thing I'm going to say is your coaches, we'll get you there, but let's make sure we just get some listings to sell. Let's not be picky about the price. But if you know that your niche moving forward, you want to be doing waterfront, you want to be doing waterfront $1 million homes. Well, we want to go where that conversation might be taking place. So, and you can run into anybody anywhere. Stay with me on this. But I'm probably going to make sure that Thursdays at 5:30, I'm at the right martini bar where those conversations might be taking place. Doesn't need to be super expensive. Yeah, I definitely, if you're going to be discussing alcohol, discussing alcohol. Yes, that's where my head is at. Welcome to Friday. It's 9:27. If you're going to be discussing real estate, we don't want to be tipsy. Nobody's signing any paperwork once alcohol is past your lips, right? You want to be coherent. But you go, you get a nice cocktaini, you nurse it, and then somebody starts talking about second, third, and investment homes. Huh, and you just happen to be there. Again, that first couple of slides, we said, you know, go to where money's changing hands and get involved. That's our job. So put yourself in the right places where you're going to meet the people where the needle for your niche is going to move. And then connect with them. Well, I don't. So now you're telling me you physically went to this happy hour, to this cool little martini bar, the steakhouse that you and your friends love, for the purpose of tracking down people that might happen to bring up real estate, and then they do. Remarkably serendipitous. It happened on the first day you went, and then you balk, you freeze, and you're like, God, I just didn't want to bother them. But you went there for this exact reason. You got to be okay with it. And the more you do it, the smoother you'll get. And I shouldn't say smooth because it sounds smarmy and salesy. The more you do it, the more comfortable you'll get in doing it. And just lean over and just say, hey, where were you thinking about shopping? I apologize. You know, I overheard you talking about a second home or whatever. My name's Tim. I work with Keller Williams. If you need any help with anything, I'd love to be of assistance. And they find out you're in the industry, you start talking. Maybe they have somebody, maybe they don't. But don't put yourself in a place where it might come up. And then when it does come up, balk. Please don't do that. And then ask for the business. We have to approach people, connect with people, and ask for the business. Our job is to communicate, educate, facilitate. That's what we do. Gary and Schiff says lead generation is a contact sport with simple rules. It means making contact with people through prospecting and marketing. If you're in real estate and you have people in your life that don't know you're in real estate, said with love, we're sort of doing it wrong. We talk about this all the time. Then you're going to get to the point where the people in your life know you're in real estate, yet they don't understand how they can help you. And ultimately that you require their help to do what you do. Successful agents across the board have their ambassadorship friends, people that would, at that cocktail bar, if they weren't there, they would insert themselves in the conversation. Hey, I heard you guys are thinking about listing. I'm sorry, I couldn't help it over here. My friend Stacy is a phenomenal realtor. She works in Stratham and Greenland. If you're going to be listing, I'd be remiss if I didn't give you her card or her number so you can give her a call. Because I got to tell you, and this isn't just because I'm in real estate, if my wife and I were sitting there and somebody inserted themselves into the conversation, I would take that as serendipitous. And if I, especially as a civilian, I wouldn't, and I know a lot of people are like, oh, like the national average is people just work with the first person they talk to. I talked to a few. We didn't. I mean, my wife and I bought our house back in 2009. I called Nate. I trusted Nate. I knew a lot of people, but I called Nate because I trusted him the most. And he wasn't in my face. We stayed, after he left radio, we stayed connected. I knew what he was doing. I remember the day he called me in 2004 to tell me he opened up a Sherwin-Williams. I'm like, why did you open a paint store? I'm like, oh, Keller Williams. Sorry. Yeah. And then 5 years after he opened this place, we called him because he was the person in real estate that I knew and loved and trusted. Do you have that mind share with your people? And ask yourself, in everyone in my life, am I at least one of the top 3 names in their head when it comes to real estate? Because if you're not, we got to work on that. You don't need to be the only choice in everyone's head. But if everyone in your life doesn't at least know, you haven't told them once, and they're going to forget. I tell you guys all this all the time. We got to tell everyone in our life 7 times we're in real estate before they forget. And I'll ask you this. You've got friends in your life that are business owners. When your feet hit the floor this morning as you jumped out of bed, was your seminal thought about your friend Rich, who has a landscaping company, like, God, I hope he has enough lawns to mow today. I hope they have enough clients. We're not thinking about other people's business. We've all got our own stuff. We got personal life stuff going on. We're looking for our next listing. We're trying to get that annoying buyer to actually make an offer that's reasonable in North America in 2023. No, I'm not thinking, my first thought of the day isn't, God, I hope my friend that has this other business is doing okay. It's not because I don't care, but it's not top of mind for me. So if you think one Facebook post the day after you got your license is good enough, I love you. It's not. And we have to make sure that we're interacting with our people on a regular basis, not asking them to buy, sell, invest, but just having normal conversations. And I know the number one answer on the board if Steve Harvey was here would be like, nobody likes to pick up the phone. Well, I need you to get over that, because that's going to be how you're going to get back into people's lives, by having conversations. You're not going to text your way to greatness. It's just not going to happen. We're relationship building. Not to mention, the blessing is, it is the one industry that everyone loves to talk about. I think if you asked anyone in a quiet moment, would you like to own where you currently live if they're renting? They would say yes, or maybe they would share with you where they actually want to live. Ask any one of your friends. If you were ready, willing, and able and had the means to do so, would you want a vacation home? Who would say no to that? Would you want additional properties to cash flow to build passive income for your children? No. We've been looking into poverty. It looks pretty cool. Who would say that? Nobody. And then above and beyond that, on top of that, the responsibility we bear to be in this super cool industry is it's arguably going to be the largest transaction of people's lives. So we have to know what we're doing. But we do that on a regular basis. You're in class right now on a Friday morning. There's not another class like this going on the Seacoast. And there's a lot of brokerages. And it's embarrassing how much they don't talk about being good at what we do. And that's why it's incumbent upon us to move the needle in this industry. I'm wildly biased. I know that. Like, I've only ever worked here. I get that. And we're not for everybody. Thank God, because we don't have enough parking. But the other kids are waiting on us to do our job to move this industry forward. I think I shared with you guys earlier this week. Gary mentioned on stage, we are 1 in every 5 transactions in North America in 2022 went through a Keller Williams office. We are 20% of the market. That's embarrassing for the rest of the country and all the other brokerages. Because Gary's little company, KW, just turned 40. Like, some of the other brokerages have logos with horse and buggies in them. They've been around since the Bronze Age, and we have surpassed them. And we can't rest on those laurels. We have to do our job. Here's the slide I was talking about. And this Jason Abrams put this chicken scratch together a while back, and it's perfect. And the analogy I'm going to use is skiing, right? If you think about, if you go to Bretton Woods on like Martin Luther King weekend, President's Day weekend, any of those weekends, that Saturday, Sunday, Monday, those mountains are packed, absolutely juiced. You're going to get at the end of the line. You're like, should I keep waiting in line or should I go get a chocolate covered waffle, right? It's like 17 minutes to get to the part of the line where it says only 1 more hour. You have to ask yourself, and this is the gap conversation. If you look at those ebbs and flows in the market, at the top of that first hill is when the person makes the move. That's when we would all love to magically show up. Now we know they're going to get down to the bottom, and that's about 5 years in. So let's say 7 to 10 years during COVID, it probably slid down to, 3 to 5 years. The average slid down a little bit because for a few years, people were just moving to grab equity. Are you willing, well after the sale, when they're settled into their home, see those little notches on the hill going up? Are you willing to stay engaged? Are you willing to wait in line with your client? Get on the lift with your client. Start going up the mountain with your client. Stay engaged. Keep having conversations. Make it all about them. Maybe the lift stops a couple times because it's windy. How long will that process be from the bottom of the mountain up until the top? Because everybody would love that. That's why we love referrals so much. Somebody calls you and says, hey, Helena, I've got somebody I've been working with. They actually don't want to buy in Massachusetts anymore. They actually want to buy in New Hampshire. They are ready to go. I can actually send you the 3 properties they want to see tomorrow. When they close, flip me 25%. You're not hemming and hawing about the 25%. You are like, yes, send them up. I'll take a referral. You're handing me somebody ready to go tomorrow in real estate in 2023. Amen. All day. So we're willing to do it then. But for our business, are we willing to also nurture those relationships until they're ready to be transactional again? That is the gap where we need to show up as a human. And if we can do that through systems and models and the marketing that are our smart plans, don't forget a campaign and a smart plan. We hear these things. We know they're both marketing tools. Don't forget a campaign is what I put together over this weekend and I launch on Monday to remind people it's event or date driven. A campaign out of command is telling somebody about next Saturday's open house. A smart plan is ever present. There's a guy that a lot of people listen to. He's all over the place on social media. His name is Gary Vaynerchuk, Gary V. He's got a handful of books. One of his books is called Jab, 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 Right Hook. And what he really means by that is the jab, jab, jab is your marketing. The jab, jab, jab is just you keep punching them in the ribs, right? And then the right hook is the knockout punch. So what are you doing to stay in their head and to remind them, keep poking them in the ribs, reminding them that you're there? And then what will be the offer that you make that puts them over the top and says, yes, I want to do business with you. I've been seeing your marketing. I know you're here. I know you're consistent. Everyone's using you. And now you've made it make sense for me. Here's prospecting and marketing again, prospecting based, bottom of the triangle, right? I know I can get on the phone. Should I need to, I can get on the phone and I get immediate results. I could set a kitchen table for my face today if I do the right things. It's going to take my time. I'm going to spend today from 9 to 11, maybe 9 to 12, my entire morning, every morning. I'm going to repeat that. My entire morning, every morning is when I'm doing lead generation. It's not everyone's favorite thing. It is essential. Like, what's the best part of going to the gym and kicking ass and taking names? It's the ability to walk onto the beach and feel great about your results. Nobody's excited. If you've ever, and I know it just happened again, if you've ever run a big race, back when it's a French term, back when I was lay fat, back when I was less fat, I'd lost a bunch of weight. I got into running to keep the weight off. Clearly I stopped. And at the time I was running for charity. I did about a dozen marathons. I did about 5 Boston. And if you're getting ready for Boston, it's an 18-week process, and you historically start in December for that, right? Carry the 4, divide by 3. Yeah, you're waking up while sleet's hitting your window, and you're like, I can't wait to go outside and run. I mean, you could do it inside on a treadmill. It's a terrible way to get ready for a marathon. My personal experience. Don't do it. So going out and doing all of that in the winter, in the dark, while nobody's watching, to earn the right to run a good race on race day. It's the differentiation between, the dirt and the clouds. Like, are you in love with the process? And it might take a while for you to fall in love with it, because they're like, yeah, I don't enjoy it. The results, though, the 18 weeks that nobody knew about, me working my ass off, eating right, all the things, so I could do something respectable on race day. And I was always a charity runner. Like, I was never the Kenyans who won were usually home in Kenya out of the shower watching me finish the race. It was not great. And I have the most patient wife in America, by the way, because she would have to wait for me on Boylston Street. So think about that. And you have to ask yourself this too. Am I willing to sacrifice what I want right now for what I want then? There's a conversation about, if you've read The One Thing, in the book, The One Thing, the premise is, what is the one thing that I can do that such by doing? Everything else becomes easier or unnecessary. And they also talk about goals. And if you look up in Merriam and Webster, the definition of a goal, and I think we all understand what that is. I'll look it up real quick because I want to make sure I read this correctly. I'm not going to pretend I know it off the top of my head. Let's see. Goal. We're going to get the thing about the stuff. Here we go. The result or achievement toward which effort is directed. That's the definition of a goal. The result or achievement toward which effort is directed. Obviously, in sports, it would be something wildly different. And then Gary wants us to talk about, well, that's the definition of a goal. What's the purpose of a goal? And at Keller Williams, we define the purpose of a goal as being appropriate in the moment. A goal reminds me to be appropriate in the moment. James Shaw says all the time on the Pivot Shift Ahead call at 8 o'clock on Zoom and on Facebook, 8 o'clock every morning. The link is in our morning news. James Shaw's a phenomenal MAPS coach. That community is phenomenal. And he talks about it all the time. Go do the next right thing. We keep doing the right thing consistently, exhaustedly. It's going to show up. Marketing is going to be money intensive and it's going to be passive. It'll be long-term results. There's set it and forget it stuff you can do. If you got that going for you, great. If you got stuff set up, great. Now let's get back on the phone, or let's get back to whatever form of prospecting we can do. People go door knocking. Cool. If you're doing that once a week, consistently do it once a week, it's going to turn into something that works for you. We can't say I went door knocking once back in 1978 and nobody wanted to talk to me. It doesn't work. It does work. People build their entire businesses around door knocking. If you're in an urban area, I'm going to walk downtown. I'm going to hit all the stores. Maybe door knocking for you, based on where you are, is to become the mayor of your town by knowing every shop owner. Maybe you start doing video content with every shop owner. Like, hey, Ted, I love your bakery. Always have loved your bakery. If I came in here, you guys close at 3:00 on Thursdays. If I came in here, would you shoot a little bit of content with me so I can share my love for your place with all of the people that are following me on the interwebs, and just cross-pollinate your businesses, right? It doesn't have to be the phone. If Nate was here, he'd say it doesn't have to be the phone. It doesn't. The phone is going to be the number one way you're going to get in contact with people, and they get to hear the words you choose and hear the passion and tonality in which you deliver the words. So here's a whole bunch of stuff. The next few slides are all the things you can do for prospecting and or marketing. As we get started, don't forget FSBOs and expireds. We want to use the do not call list. It's donotcall.gov. Please look that up. Get yourself an account. If you're going to go down the road of calling on Mets with expireds and FSBOs, we have to make sure they're on the do not call list. If you do run into somebody who's on the do not call list, remember, you're exiting the call with grace. They say, hey, I'm on the do not call list. I don't know how you got this number. Hey, I apologize, Mr. Jones. I'll update my notes. Have a wonderful afternoon. We're getting off the call. A lot of people, it's like, well, I'm not calling to sell you something. I'm calling to see if you want to sell your. Don't do it. You'll get smacked. And it's expensive. We talk about it all the time. $43,000 per violation. It's not great. Circle prospecting. Neighborhoods, apartment complexes, around something you recently sold, around something you recently listed. So you can remind people you're the agent attached to that greatness. Community outreach. Are you doing charity work? Is there volunteer work you're currently doing that you could lean into? Make sure people know that you want to help in this way too. What do you have for key relationships? Do you know, is one of your friends human resources director at a massive company? If somebody was in good with the group at Liberty Mutual over in Dover, who have now sold that entire footprint, I have to imagine some people relocated. And I'm sure they have some big, stupid relocation relationship with somebody who isn't us. But did you even get a chance to get your business card on their desk? Because maybe you go in there and your friend Stacy, who's in charge of HR for this company, and maybe you guys have similar relationships with like 5 people that work at the company. There's nothing forcing them to relocate with that company's choice. Especially if you do a better job. Or maybe they're not satisfied with their relocation company. Do you have a good relationship with at least one builder? This day and age, you need to know more than one builder, because a great way to make sure that you are advertising the land listing that you just got is to put in the MLS as land and also under residential as a to be built. I know a lot of people get all excited. They're like, you know what? We watched a whole bunch of HGTV this weekend. We're going to buy some land. I've got a tape measure. My wife's got a flashlight. We're going to build our own house. No, you're not. And nobody has time for that. How many people buy their house and like, oh, we just bought a project every day when we get home from the job that pays for the mortgage for the house that we just bought. We're then going to take a deep breath, a sip of water, and then start working on the house. And then at like 11:30, we're going to run through the shower, cry ourselves to sleep, all the while destroying our marriage. Then I go back to work to pay for the mortgage for the house that I bought that is an absolute project. Or do people just want to move in? Most people want to move in. People want turnkey. So do you have a relationship with a builder? You could have them put some opportunities of this is what could be built on the land and move it into residential. We sold more land doing that than we did just putting it under land. and a great resource at our company, Dr. Jason Westcott. Jason Westcott's a phenomenal resource when it comes to land and new construction. He is our assistant managing broker. If you don't have his number, you should. It's 603-234-2589. You got questions around that? He teaches it consistently as well. Investors, what do you have for investors? And remember, most investors are not going to sign with you. I mean, once you find them what they're looking for, they will, but you're rarely going to get somebody who's an investor to sign an exclusive buyer's agency agreement with you. Investors are like, yeah, bring me, if you hear about anything cool, just bring it to me. They're always dating, never engaged, and you have to be okay with that. And when you get to the point where you start to bring them enough opportunities, you'll go to the top of the list. It's very rare. And the repeat offenders too. So don't forget, we got to renew our paperwork for every deal. So, but investors are great, especially if that's your mindset and you really want to get into that and you start to think, I want to do investments, I want to do commercial. With all those conversations, they extract the emotion. Investors just need the money. The numbers have to be right. What's the P&L look like? Does it cash flow? Or the tenants staying? What's the cap rate? They're not worried about, is Thanksgiving going to work out? Will fat Uncle Tony fit in the kitchen? They're not worried about that. They're not buying it for that reason. There's teaching and speaking opportunities. Can you do that at your alma mater? Maybe go back and talk about it. Can you do that at a group that you're connected with to make sure more people understand the opportunity of joining real estate and becoming an agent? They've got meals here. I don't know necessarily what they mean by that. That's a new one. It's a little unclear. I'm not going to pretend I know. I mean, I guess I would throw out, could you do it by, I mean, we talked about this the other day, I think too. If that's one of your things that you do really well, could you just do something for your clients where you have people over? Some of your clients that have been really good to you, do you have them over? If you cook really well, do you bring over your top 2 couples and you cook for them in your kitchen? I'm also going to go out on a limb and say maybe they're talking about delivering meals. Maybe that's almost back to community outreach. Are you doing that? Or is it something like a soup kitchen where you can go and cook? Community Crossroads right next door. We go over there on a consistent basis and serve over there. Door-to-door canvassing, people getting their heads about this. It's right up there with door knocking. And they're like, oh, well, you know what? I don't like doing that in November because people think that you're canvassing for a political candidate. Well, not if you consistently go. They're going to know that you're canvassing for you. Networking events, always a hang up for me when people talk about networking events, because what we invariably do is we get to a networking event, like a board event, and we go in and we find people from our office and we go and stand and talk to them. That's just, I can't help you. You go and you get a watered down cocktail, you go over to that stupid high top table, one of the legs doesn't really work, and you talk to people that you were just at the office with. Go talk to other people. Booths and kiosks. I always make fun of Apple Harvest World in Dover every fall, but if there's an event like that, that's something that you could attach yourself to. It's not cost prohibitive, and you're just there every year, and you spend the 45 days in your 90-day window. This is your lead invitation. Hey, Stacy, it's Timmy. I know you guys are just outside of Dover, and I'm pretty sure you're fanatical about Apple Harvest Day. Me and my team are going to be there. We'll be right in front of X store. And I'd love to see you swing through. Then you get some giveaways and ask people to fill out information. Ask people to fill out information if they want you to do an equity update. Nothing crazy. It's about having your face there. Having your face there. You could extract all of that stuff and just have face painting and giving away apple cider. I don't know. But then have something cool enough that people actually want to put their information down about winning a TV or something. I don't know. Something to be excited about. And then have it very clear in the information. Or don't. Like, I just thought that through as I said that. If you put a box that says, is it okay if we reach out to you about real estate needs? Everybody's going to say no. But you're going to call to let everyone know somebody's going to win the TV. You're going to call everybody else to let them know that, thank you for swinging through. It was great to see you. Our winner was the Lindsays. Thank you so much. Hey, we've got another event coming up in a couple of months. We'd love to reach out and make sure that you know where we're going to be. Is it okay if we send you an invite? And now as soon as they say yes, then you start the whole process over again. Now you're doing lead invitation with them. They know who you are. You're Tim Lindsay calling from Lindsay Real Estate. They know who you are, but you haven't brought it up yet. You're just trying to build the relationship with them at this point. Marketing, there's some goofy stuff in here, not to make fun of it, but we'll make fun of it. I'll pick on radio right away. You can do some pretty cool stuff, some pretty inexpensive stuff with radio. They have things now called like 10-second or 15-second value adds, like a quick little bumper that basically just says something super quick about your business. I just don't know how valuable that is in this day and age, so I'm going to pick on that. TV, in this day and age, you're going to hit a certain demographic. Very few people are watching traditional television. I'm not saying it doesn't work, but the barrier of entry financially to get involved in that, I think you're better off using the TV that everybody's already watching. It's in their hand and it's 4K. I would rather do something on YouTube and do an ad buy on YouTube. So I'm targeting a neighborhood that I want, and I'll keep this quick, but this is how this would work. If I put together the ad that basically said, I go into Command, I figure out that a whole bunch of people that are moving for some reason, for some insane reason, they're leaving Florida and coming back to New England. Because you can go in and you can find migration patterns in Command. So I just find the biggest migration pattern for the last 60 days in Command coming to Stratham, New Hampshire. I put together my ad, 30-second video that I put together that basically says, hey, thinking about moving to New Hampshire? I buy SEO ad space down in Phoenix where they're coming from. And now John and Mary Sullivan get home from their weekend getaway. Their son-in-law and their daughter call and say, Timmy scored a goal in soccer. The video's on YouTube. We sent you the link. They clicked the link. And because they're in a geofence that I'm attacking, before the video of their niece or nephew scoring the goal plays, they have to sit through my ad. And they probably will because it's only 30 seconds. I'll pick on old people because I'm old. They also don't know how to get rid of the ad, so they're just forced to watch it for 30 seconds. And it's me saying, thinking about moving to New Hampshire. And maybe the niece or nephew that scored the goal is in New Hampshire. Pretty serendipitous. I think there's just way more control over analytics with the internet. Newspapers, if you're doing it, cool. You're going to have some people up and around the lake with the Leica. They call it the Leica. Did you put my house in the Leica? People get very excited. If they want it in the newspaper, put it in the newspaper. If that's your jam, that's your jam. Again, we don't have any analytics around that. You know, the Laker, who grabs that? 70-year-old guys getting a coffee and a muffin on Saturday. How many of them read it? 4. How do we know that? Because when we found their body, they still had the paper in their hand that was open to that page. I don't know. Like, there's no real analytics around newspapers. We want to be able to hold our spends accountable to our success. Bus stop benches. I mean, some of the stuff you're now thinking about Phil from, what was that? What was that show with the family? And he was a realtor. I can't even think of the name of the show now. But anyway, you know what I'm talking about. Bus stop benches, magazines, billboards, yellow pages, a lot of antiquated stuff here. Actually, we rented a lake house down in Tennessee last summer, and we're coming out. My wife lost it because a grocery cart had the local realtor, Margie. She was a peach, and she had her face all over every cart in the parking lot, which was great. And it probably works for her. And I'm not saying that if you didn't do it long enough around here, it wouldn't work for you. Again, you know, maybe with a QR code. I think all of these things can get a little more juice now if you put a QR code on them that forces them, you know, into relationship with you, as opposed to call this number. I think QR codes are going to be the way to go. Hopefully people stick with that. Online stuff, pay-per-click advertising. We talked about that. I think you can do some stuff that's going work in that arena. I'm not an expert in that. We have a dear friend who knows that stuff inside and out. Her name is April Shaw Bodwin. If you want to check her out, she's online at omnitizing.com, OMNITIZI. It's a long one, NG, omnitizing.com. She does a great job with all that kind of stuff. We've got probably close to 30 of our agents that are using her for their websites and stuff. She's a rock star when it comes to that. SEO, search engine optimization. That's why I think you guys should be pushing everything. All of your reviews should go to Google, because if you're also on YouTube, that's all under one big umbrella. It's just going to keep driving the needle for you. Social media is free. Unless you get into paid ads, social media is free. If that's your jam, find the one medium that you're going to use. I don't think you need to go on and get MySpace and TikTok and all the things going. You know, if you're comfortable with one of them, use one. We also have very successful agents that don't spend any time worrying about social media, and they're doing just fine. It is an arena that people are on constantly, and it's a great way to show up as a human. And I don't know. It won't hurt you. It's also, if you don't lean into social media, I guess we'll never know what it could have been. So as your coach, I'll just ask you, what if you picked one and spent a little time? It's in everybody's hands. I think it's way more powerful than TV. TV is a very segmented demographic. If you're running an ad on TV during the news, you're going to get, and I can say this because I have it, you're going to get old people with gray hair for the most part, right? I still watch the news. I still watch network news because I'm a maniac. I'm just a dork with it, right? I'm also watching those commercials, and I would never call a realtor on television during the news because I'd call one of you, but that's beside the point. Broadcast content, radio segments. I think this is where I would explore a radio station if it would make sense. There was a company a handful of years ago that did something super cool. They were called the Real Estate Radio Network. And you can sort of hack this now. We're actually working on something as a long play here that we've been talking about. And we're going to make something that's a little bit more accessible than having to go to a radio station. We'll talk more about that when it gets here. Nonetheless, some radio stations now, the premise of this Real Estate Radio Network was, it was a company out in San Diego. One of my dear friends from radio on the East Coast went out to work with these guys. And what they would do is they would search in every market. They were looking for a real estate agent and a lender in every market. And what they wanted to do was help these people, if they had no idea what they were doing, help these people understand how to sort of do a radio show, but really make it like a podcast, and then segment all the content as additional value adds. So they would track people down that wanted to work with them, find a local radio station that would let them do this. And you, as I start to talk about this, you're going to be like, oh, yeah, I've seen that happening. One of our dear friends up in Greater Portland does it on a local radio station. His name is Jeff Matea. He's at Keller Williams in Greater Portland. He and Harrison Smith, one of his guys, they do it on a consistent basis at a radio station. So what would happen is you're going to go in probably into one of their production studios at the radio station at some point, when you can just go in there for an hour or so and you cut your show. It's all pre-recorded. So it's you as the agent, it's your show. It's, Real Estate with Timmy, and it's going to run on the radio station at like 6:30 on a Sunday morning. Like, well, nobody's listening to the radio at 6:30 on a Sunday morning. The old guy going to get his muffin and his coffee and picking up the Laker, he's listening, by the way. But above and beyond that, nobody's listening. That's not the point. Your show being on the radio on Sunday morning is not what you should be worried about. It's the fact that you have all this content that you can now spread around all over social media. And then the guests you bring on, you sort of have them sponsor it, because the radio station is going to charge you like X to go use their studio. That to me is more powerful, because if you have somebody that knows how to at least set up a camera and shoot you cutting the show, you immediately become the local expert, because you all of a sudden have a radio show about real estate. And you're interviewing lenders and stagers and butchers and bakers. It doesn't matter. People in the arena that you can interview and cross-pollinate your business with theirs, and you become the straw in the drink. I think that would be the way I would go. And you don't even have to worry about a relationship with the radio station at this point. It's not free, but if you've ever been in my office, all the stuff on my desk, anybody can buy this stuff. and you could start to do that. So I think broadcast content, you guys can be your own radio stations, your own television stations at this point, and you push all that content over to YouTube, and you create your own television station, your own radio station. And YouTube, as of late, has now taken all the video podcasts, and they're now doing YouTube podcasts. They're stripping the audio off and putting it on YouTube Music. I know we've covered a lot that probably doesn't make any sense. I'm just saying to you guys, if you have questions about this, this does not have to be cost prohibitive. You're going to have to buy some equipment. It doesn't have to be crazy. There's people that are doing great content. They simply turn the microphone on their phone and they record there and they push it out to Anchor. So don't overthink it. But if you got questions about doing something like that, I don't think you need to spend a whole bunch of money with a radio station or a television station. I think that's brain damage. I think you can do it in the comfort of your own home. So direct mail, it's important. Tangible stuff. If you got stuff that you can send out that's of value, you do this on a consistent basis. One of our great agents, Chris Carr, has been doing his newsletter since 1912, and he does not love taking phone calls. He does not love making phone calls. He loves taking phone calls. He's done his newsletter for so long. He's got so many people that get it every 29 and a half days, and it's just worked for him. We know newsletters, though, take a long time to actually set in. You have to go from the point where you understand it's going to take about 15 months to get noticed and about 18 months to get teeth. If you're dropping it every 30 days, it's going to take about a year for people to be like, oh, okay, this person's legit. They keep showing up. What's fascinating is we will talk about newsletters. Somebody tells Zoe and I they're starting a newsletter. They said, I'm going to start one in April. Cool. And then they email Zoe and I, started in April. And then we see him in May. We're like, how's the newsletter? Like, sent out my second one. And then we see him in June and like, how's the newsletter? Like, I stopped. I sent out 2. Nobody called. Well, we knew that though. Like I just told you that. So if you're going to start to do a physical, tangible newsletter that you're going to send out to people's mailboxes, you've got to know that it's going to be a while before you're going to start to get feedback. And there's ways that you combine the two, prospecting and marketing, by farming, geographic and demographic. Geographic farming means I'm going to go attack this neighborhood. Demographic farming, I'm looking for 30 to 40-year-old males and females in the tech space, right? I'm looking for 40 to 50-year-old dentists. I'm looking for male or female airline pilots, like whatever. That's demographic farming. I'm looking for a certain person or a certain location. You can do open houses. We talk about it all the time. Page 71 in Shift. Right here, if you go to page 71, where is she? That's page 37. That's not it. There she is. Page 71 in Shift, the 7th level open house, all broken out for you. Gives you a week's worth of activities to do to get ready for your open house. Seminars, contests. You can run contests. People simply fill out their information for an opportunity to win a TV, a Ring doorbell, whatever. Client appreciation events. Again, I think at least once a year as you get going, you'll start to do something to thank the people in your life that conducted business with you in the last 12 months. Or if they're forever clients, they're going to get invited to your client appreciation event every holiday season, every year. Networking. How are you networking with your sphere? Are you talking to your past clients? Are you engaging in finding new allied resources? Who's your general contractor? Who's your painter? Who fixes driveways for you if your client needs a driveway patched, sealed, or redone? Agents. How are you engaging with other agents? Massive opportunity. Every veteran agent always says to me, I got 4,000 people on my phone. Half of them are agents. Okay. Huge opportunity. Some of them are retiring. Some of them have decided on the other side of COVID, or they stopped working during COVID. If you got a bunch of agents in your phone, when's the last time you talked to them? How are they conducting their business? What are they starting to hand off because they're performing business differently? And do they know that you're still alive and well and you're here to help them with referrals back and forth? Some agents, even in the smallest states, get very parochial. I will only work in this section of the state. So somebody who used to travel from Keene and come over and sell stuff on the seacoast, maybe they don't do that anymore. Maybe you need to connect with them. Referral networks. There's a great one, In Command. I'm going to pick on Facebook for a little bit. It's a great tool, don't get me wrong, but you see all these pages, Seacoast Realtors Referral Network or whatever, and even ones that are built within Facebook that are only KW agents. I'm going to remind you, somebody is in charge of that page. And I don't mean this in a disingenuous way. I want to remind you, though, someone is in charge of that page. Someone is going to probably assist the conversation to go to somebody of their choosing. So if you go into referrals in Command, I can look up and I can find Nathan Dickey. I can see how many active listings he has. I can see how many listings he sold in the last 12 months. Is he an ALC member? Is he a Bold graduate? Is he all these things that I deem important for me to have my clients work with? And you can't lie on all the data that's in there is real. Somebody on a Facebook page and you just ask, hey, who should I be working with in Detroit, Michigan? You're going to probably see a whole bunch of names, but you're going to see one name come up predominantly. And then you could reverse search it and look in Command if they're a KW agent. See if they are the most legitimate one. No judgment. I just think we have all these tools in Command that give us very clear information. And then we just jump out on MySpace and we're like, who's the coolest person you know? And that's based on emotion, not logic. So I'm going to put my people in the best hands based on math. Business is math. You could be a phenomenal individual with a bunch of zeros. And there's no judgment. You might be the greatest real estate agent in the next 5 years, but right now, I don't think that you are who I'm looking to put my people with. And that's the other thing where we think about, well, I've got people that are going out to Bellevue, Washington. So I'm looking for a great buyer's agent. Are you though? Wouldn't you be looking for a great listing agent? Because even the greatest buyer's agent right now probably has a bunch of buyers they're working with. And don't get me wrong, a great listing agent probably has the buyer's agent that they'll end up working with, but I want to find the team or the individual who has the most listings. If I'm sending somebody out to find a listing, I'm not going to send them to somebody to help them find it. I'm going to send them to somebody who has it. So when we're sending our buyer referrals to an agent in another part of the country, is their bakery case full of bear claws or is it empty? Like I would never recommend a restaurant. Be like, you got to go to this restaurant. Why should I go there? Well, they used to be awesome. They're closed now, though, because they don't have any food. That doesn't make any sense. That's just stupid. So when you're sending anybody to anybody, do they command, do they dominate their region, their neighborhood? And people can have ups and downs, but I think you have to really run the math in your head. Why would you send a buyer referral out to somebody who has no inventory? That is all. Rant over. It's not over. I'm sure it'll continue in the next few minutes. I'm just going to catch my breath. All right. So prospecting and marketing. And there's a whole bunch here, right? In your workbook that Zoe put together, because she's a friggin' genius, on 91 and 92. So just circle 3 things. Write down 3 things you're going to do. From a prospecting standpoint, just out of sheer guilt, write down phone. Promise yourself you're going to make phone calls. If you're going to be successful in this marketplace, in this industry, you're going to have to get okay with the phone. I need you to get okay with the phone. And it's not going to happen overnight, but it's never going to happen if you don't start. One of my favorite quotes ever, I think I heard this my freshman year in real estate. You do not have to be great to start. You have to start to be great. If you wait until tomorrow to get started, you're going to start again tomorrow. And then you put it off again. It's inevitable that this is an art form that we will need to have self-mastery in. Our most successful agents are allowed, compelled, and empowered to have conversations on a regular basis. And they don't sound scripted, right? I think all the time you've ever engaged with Zoe and I, do you see us looking down, reading anything? Our best agents don't read anything. If it's a brand new script, like we discovered FIRE, And when you inspect most of the scripts, what are they? It's just a series of questions. And what do we say to you as coaches all the time? Just stay curious. Keep asking them about them. My 3 bullet points that are going to be on the back of my grave are always this: ask great questions, take great notes, have honest conversations. And people say to me, well, what do you mean? What's a great question, Tim? The next one. Just keep peeling the onion. If we stay curious, we keep the conversation all about them, you will always win. And winning doesn't always mean closing table. Winning doesn't always mean $10,000 gross commission income check. Winning means you help them logically get to the point where they made a decision that is best for them and their loved ones. That's a win, because they will walk away from that engagement feeling heard and cared for. Our phenomenal agent, Tim, helped us determine this was not the right time. Our phenomenal agent, Tim, helped us determine this was the right time, and we had some limiting beliefs that were holding us back. We had circumstances in our head that thought were going to prevent us from moving forward. But then we engaged with the great lender down the hallway from Tim's office, Bradley Kelly. He's great. He uncovered some financial packages we didn't even know were available. And because we worked through that, because Tim asked the next great question, we discovered that together. That's a win. I need you to be excited for the opportunity and not tied to the outcome. Because if the outcome is in a closing table, we can't be crybabies about that. And I don't want you to be crybabies about that, because you'll have 7 other things going on. The agent who's not doing their job needs this deal to close, or their cat's going to have to put on a sweater because they're shutting the heat off and they're breaking ramen into 4 pieces. I don't want that for you. And there's no need for you to have that unless you choose to, because you've decided that prospecting is not for you. Said with love, if prospecting and marketing and talking to the humans is not for you, I'll give you the rest of your day back. It's 10:15. Go on your way. Godspeed. Kohl's is probably hiring. Go full t-shirts. I mean, I'm going to go eventually. The bus gets here at 11. Or we lock and load. We remind ourselves why we got here. There's untapped potential. The professional environment you're in right now, you probably get paid, most companies, every other week. Some corporate environments once a month. You can go to a closing table 3 times a week here if you want to. But you have to ask yourself, what am I willing to have my face do every day before lunch to create that energy? And if you're willing to do the right things, the next right thing, and you know what it is, what am I supposed? I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. I haven't got started because I'm not really sure. We talk about it all the time. Make sure people know what you're doing and make sure they understand how to help you do what you do. So write down the top 3 things you'll do to prospect based on these lists, and write down 3 things you might do to market yourself. And every one of us owns a phone. Tax day was April 18th. Most of you lied to your CPA and said it was a business expense. So make it a business expense. You're giving Verizon, I have 6 phones on our account. So it's me, my wife, my 2 boys, and my in-laws. My T-Mobile bill's like $400. I would love to say it's a business expense. But if you're telling yourself that, okay, let's use our phone for business. And that doesn't mean you have to be salesy. It means you have to pick up the phone, talk to the people you know and love and trust you haven't talked to in a while, and just have a human conversation. It's the Adele script is what we call it. They pick up the phone and you say, hello. And then they say hello. You've heard this before. And then you're like, oh my God, I'm so glad I caught you. I'm sorry it's been so long. I noticed on Facebook you got a new dog. I noticed on Facebook little Timmy got his first goal of the season. You just have a human interaction. What's eventually going to come up? How's Home Depot? How's Kohl's? How's Liberty Mutual? And then they're going to ask you if they know. And if they don't know, it's your first opportunity to when they say, how's work? If you're dual career right now, you don't talk about the other thing. Even if you want to, even if that would be the comfortable way to go. Hey, I'm so glad you asked. I got my license. I just got started with Keller Williams. I was talking to my coach, figured out what I want to do in the next 9 months. I'm hoping to help 16 families. If you could remember me when you hear anybody say real estate, I'd be honored to work with the people that you know. And since we're talking about it, Stacy, do you know anybody right now from soccer or church or work? And then do what I never do, shut up and let them think about it. And maybe they do or don't know. But they're going to know on a regular basis now you're their person. Everybody wants their person. Think about conversations you have at these holiday parties. There's always some guy up on the hearth of somebody's fireplace with his foot up and his scotch in his hand. He's like, you got to use my lawyer. Jimmy saved me $1 million on my 6th divorce. Like whatever they're spouting off about. Everybody's got their butcher, their baker, their candlestick maker. You want to be their real estate expert. Everybody loves to have a guy or a girl, a person. You need to be their person. It's that simple. We love to overcomplicate it though, right? Because it's rocket science. We're all brain surgeons. It's not that complicated. And we talk about real estate is simple and not easy. It's simple because of the tools and the systems and the resources, the classes we have, the staff that you have at your beck and call to help you do what you want to do. The difficulty comes in, and this is a great book. I think it's called The Obstacle is the Way. It's from Ryan Holiday, a phenomenal author. The obstacle is the way. Guess what the obstacle is? We are our own obstacle and our own solution every day. You are the reason you haven't got started yet. You are the reason you might not go door knocking next Thursday. You are the reason that Tuesday at 9, you'll choose not to go to kwfightclub.com. Nobody's keeping you from doing that. I ask this all the time. Is Gary in your way? Is Nathan in your way? Is your cat keeping you busy? Or is it just you? If you ever watch The Office, and I enjoyed the show. I didn't watch it religiously. I thought it was a phenomenal show. My wife would want to stop watching it because Michael made her so uncomfortable. She'd actually pause it. She's like, oh, I'm getting too uncomfortable. He's too uncomfortable. Pause it. Let's watch the Bruins or whatever. But way back in the day when it was on, there was a whole scene. And if you remember, Pam was going to go away to school to be like a graphic artist or something like that. And she's sitting with the girl from management that Michael started to date. And I forget her name for the life of me. And Pam was telling her that she wanted to go back to school to study for graphic arts and that she was sort of getting limiting beliefs spouted into her ear by her fiance that nobody really loved, right? Everybody wanted Pam and Jim to be together. And she reached over and put her hand on Pam's hand and she said, there's a million reasons to not do something. And that's why we always get in our own way. Like I could go do the next right thing, but you know what? It's sunny out. You know what? It's Friday. You know what? I'm only 5'9". Like the list of things that we could blame it on or decide to believe is the limiting belief that's just enough to keep us out of our genius zone is fascinating. And we're all guilty of it. Everybody's done it. Everybody's done it. Oh, hang on. So questions, comments, concerns, anything. Come off mute if you've got questions. How are we doing? I see Christina. I see Derek. I see the other version of me, which I only did that. That's my MacBook over on my high top, which is broadcasting to the TV in my office in case people showed up because we got kicked out of the training room because there's a million grumpy commercial people in there. They're not grumpy. They're wonderful. They're grumpy. Any questions before we skate on? All right, perfect. Client referrals. Always provide value. Share your KW app, right? And this is huge. We used to always like, I can't make phone calls yet, Tim. My website's not done. Still waiting on my business cards. I'm going to say this. Your friend that owns a print shop is going to be very mad at me. Vistaprint's going to be very pissed off. It's 1987, kids. You don't need physical business cards. I'm going to repeat that. You're going to be okay for your entire, somebody prove this thesis for me. I want one of our agents that just landed to not get physical business cards. Nobody's ever been on stage with Gary and they're like, you know what, Gary? It was my friggin' business card. That's it, did it for me. 40 million a year in listings. It was the business. It was just the right stock. It was just the right background color. And you know what? It had my phone number on it. And that really put it over the top. So deep breath. You have a KW mobile app that is dedicated to your face. I would push that around. It doesn't take up that much room on people's phones. And you know what people don't do? People don't delete apps. People rarely delete apps. Now, if you've already bought cards, no judgment. If you're still going to buy cards, no judgment. If you never buy a card, God bless you. Because I think there's also above and beyond that, even if you just want to be able to share your information that isn't KW, which I also appreciate. There's so many digital formats you can use now. I know there's an actual card called Dot that some people have, but now there's an actual app that you can use that can put all your stuff on there as well. I think your KW app is fine. It's dedicated to you if they ever have a question about a property or anything. So if you do have cards on you, the little white lie that I ran out of cards, here's my app, always works. And I don't think it's bad to do that, because after I engage with you and you ask for my card and I don't have it, but I give you my app, I'm going to go home that night and do a handwritten note. And what will I drop in the card? I drop in the handwritten note, the cards that I didn't have earlier when I saw you. Now, people always get jammed up on, well, how do I hand my business card to somebody without feeling like I'm being salesy and schmarmy and all this stuff? Oh, well, ask them for theirs. Induce the ask, right? When I'm meeting with you or talking to you about whatever, hey, do you have a card? Most people will be like, yeah, do you have one as well? Can we exchange? Awesome. Done. Because what we find people do, they get their cards and they start handing them out like candy. And most of them get thrown out. You just dropped hundreds of dollars on beautiful cards. By the way, if you are going to get cards, my absolute favorite is a company called Moo, M-O-O. They do have nice stock. The last set of cards that I had made, which I just don't do anymore, but when I think right after I stepped out of sales and came into the role, I got them probably made in 2014 when I first took the role. And then I might have had one more run done, but it just doesn't make sense for me. Like nobody's asking me for my card in the wild. Let me say this concerning that. Moo is really good. Super cool. I have them like baseball style. So it's just my picture on the front. The back is up. My wife's like, it looks like a recipe card. I'm like, okay. I said, you don't have to take one. They do a good job. Above and beyond that, have the ability to ask for their card, and they'll usually reciprocate. But don't just hand them out. Handing your card out to somebody doesn't count as a contact. They have your information. You don't have theirs now. Because as soon as somebody standing with you downloads your app, and in minutes, you could help them download the app and get connected and choose you as their agent, that person is going to show up in your command. I think it shows up as, how did you get this person? It would say, Billo or Boomtown. It actually says app. So you remember where you initially met them and got their information. Are we asking for referrals on a regular basis? And then how do we reward those? This is important. I think historically, we will normally celebrate somebody's greatness when we close. And that can be short-sighted. I need to remember that when somebody in my life offers me the opportunity to serve their friend, I'm going to thank them immediately. It doesn't need to be crazy. If they're a Dunkin' Donuts person and you know that, you get them a $10 gift card. If they're a Starbucks person and you know that, you get them a $100 gift card, because obviously you need $100 to get a coffee at Starbucks. You get them a decent amount to make sure they can get a coffee, or whatever. No judgment. Get them $5. I don't care what the total is, but I'm going to drop that in the handwritten note. And the handwritten note's going to be, hey, thank you so much for putting me in touch with the Lindsays. We're just underway, and I wanted to thank you. I'd love to have a coffee with you and thank you properly. But until then, here's one on me, and I'll keep in touch. If you ever studied psychology, there's a whole study they did. It was called Pavlov's dogs. And they brought the dogs into a room, and they would ring a bell and then bring food out. And then eventually in the study, they started to ring the bell and not bring the food out. And the bell ringing was a learned behavior. Food was coming, so the dogs would still salivate. I'm not calling your clients and your friends dogs. My point is we need to reward the behavior. If they offer me an at-bat, now here's the other thing. I'm going to send them a card no matter what happens, with a gift card for coffee no matter what happens. Because sometimes I might get to the kitchen table and I was just terrible. I did an awful job. I didn't win the listing. So I'm not going to thank Talena because I didn't get the listing because I chose to show up and be terrible. I still have to thank her for the at-bat. Or maybe I got to somebody's kitchen table and they're upside down, right? They don't have any equity. They actually are under on their house right now. That's not her fault. I still have a chance to serve them. But if we're waiting, Talena sends me her friend. I'm waiting till we get to the closing to thank her. No, right off the bat. Thank you so much. Completely appreciate it. And if her friends end up buying a 2.9 on a big puddle named Winnipesaukee, when we close, it's going to be me and Janina, that couple, and Talena's family, all going out for steaks the size of our head. That's how you thank somebody, right? Not saying you have to do that. I would, because I want to make sure I treat all these families appropriately. So Talena's like, oh, just for giving them a phone number, I got a latte, right? And actually, the great Susan Kenyon writes a note that says, thanks, a latte, which I love. Do something memorable. Make sure anytime they do anything to move the needle for you, there's some form of gratitude being sent their way. It makes sense. You are reinvesting in your business. They have now, for all intents and purposes, become a wealth determiner for you and your family. Why would you not make sure that they absolutely understood that you're super grateful? Well, yeah, but their friends didn't list with me. Okay. I'd love to watch the film from the other three people, because maybe you went to the kitchen table and you were terrible that day. That's not her fault. Always thank with a handwritten note. It is so out of practice. It's almost right there with the phone right now. Nobody talks on the phone anymore. Don't care. Be the one. Nobody sends handwritten notes anymore. Yeah, they probably have no listings either. Agents that don't pick up the phone and don't do handwritten notes are probably doing less. Wow, I did my best to stay polite there. I don't know if I want to take the time to do that. I don't know if I want to get good at that. And it doesn't need to be embossed with Keller Williams. Like, don't drop $4 trillion on, Talena Chenard, Keller Williams, I'm the greatest, $80 stock paper, sealed with wax, like you're the king of England. Like, calm down. Go to Christmas tree shop, get 8 million butterfly cards for 48 cents. Because nobody's going to care if it's blank. The words you write on the inside. The $10 gift card to Starbucks. Them feeling heard and cared for is what's going to matter. And when somebody gets a card of that size right now, they're going to be like, oh God, somebody's getting married and they're inviting us. You get to a certain age, and I mean my age, you're like, oh, do we have to go to this wedding? We don't even know them really. So you don't go. But then you get this other thing like, oh, hold on. Looks like an invitation. Oh, it's a handwritten note. I haven't seen one of these since the last time somebody cared. Everybody gets home and they look at their mail and it's like bill, 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 bill. And then there's this little thing that sticks out. It's a handwritten note. You start doing that on a regular basis. You decide to be the agent that does that. That'll change things for you. Agent to agent referrals, super huge opportunity. Think about during COVID. And I know if you just landed, you're on the other side of it. We have so many agents that parked their car during COVID and they're just not coming back out to play. We have agents that, and this has since changed. There was a little bit of a window where I stressed to you guys quite a bit when gas prices climbed. Agents certainly said, well, I used to travel this much, but now it'd have to be a super juicy listing for me to drive that far at $7 a gallon. So I'm now going to shrink my circle of service. So if somebody called me and said they were willing to work with people that I know in that town that I'm not willing to drive through, wow, I wish I had a referral agent that would do that. So checking in with all your friends who are agents, seeing how they're doing in their business, how you could help each other. And then again, is their circle of service different now? And how could you refer to and from them? Let's make those calls. If you're a growing agent, you just landed and you don't have a lot of agents in your phone yet, make sure you have the agents in our market center in your phone. Become friendly with them, become, partners with them. If you never intend to go up to Southern Canada, up in Colebrook, New Hampshire, where Joey Sweat is, then you should have his number. So you can do business with him. So you can send referrals to him. I know we're licensed in the whole state, and practicing real estate in the entire state of New Hampshire is not in the best interest of our clients. I don't want to practice real estate in a town that I have no idea what's going on, when I could send them to Joey Sweat and he knows the ins and outs. He's the freaking mayor of Colebrook. Because I just helped the Lindsays buy this house. There's this beautiful open field in the backyard. But because I don't have institutional local knowledge, I had no idea Walmart's going in 2 months. And now my people that have this beautiful backyard that looks like Yellowstone is going to be a parking lot and a Walmart in 2 months. Joey would have known that. Not to mention the buyer you're probably bringing up to Colebrook is probably buying one of Joey's listings because he's the friggin' mayor. So just send him to Joey. Get your 25%. Save gas. Save time. The referral network, we talked about this. Go right into command. Click on your little human and you start to zoom in on any part of the country and you'll see all these little dots pop up and you click on it and it shows you the agent's name, their production, maybe the size of their team. And you can do filter searches like, do they listings sold, active listings. It'll take you 10-ish minutes to find 3 people in one geographic area to call. Because I would want to call a few people knowing, hey, I need them to work with Nate Dickey. I got to find the guy or the girl that I know is going to be the same speed as Nate. Nate's going to want to work with a high D. Nate's showing up with his checkbook. He's flying in for the weekend. He's buying a house. He's not going to start to browse. Nate Dickey doesn't browse. He buys things, right? But if you get somebody who's very touchy-feely and they're like, oh, they're a high ass, they want to feel supported. Well, we're going to get there Thursday. Friday, we're going to look around on our own. Saturday and Sunday, we'd like to see just 3 houses each. Now I got to make sure I get somebody who's willing to do that work and tee up those 3 houses. Not make it feel like it's a drive-by shooting for my client. Because if Mabel feels rushed, she's going to get freaked out. She gets freaked out, that's going to reflect on me. I need to make sure she feels heard and cared for. So talking to 3 or 4 people in that geographic area to find the person who's going to, based on the disc and based on a personality match, is really going to fall in alignment with my client is going to be important. And then being hyper clear that you're doing that kind of a search. Hey, Ted, I appreciate your numbers are through the roof. I just don't think you'll be a match for my person. Worldwide referrals as well. Don't forget, we've got market centers all over the country. If you've got questions about any part of the country or any part of the world where you might have somebody coming from or going to, please reach out to leadership. Nathan can certainly put you in the right conversation. We've got Michael Whitney, one of our mega agents who was involved in the ownership in Rome, the Czech Republic, and also in Poland. So he knows a ton of people at Worldwide, and we've got some great relationships there. So whether you talk to Nathan or Michael, for sure, if you get anywhere on the world that you get something going on and you need some help, reach out to us and we can steer you in the right direction. Business to business is super important too. We talk about this all the time. These are your allied resources. Like, who do you know that has a business that would benefit from being in relationship with you, and who has a business that you would benefit from being in relationship with them? And are we having those conversations? And we're just marching through those conversations. I'm calling my friend that has a landscaping business, finding out, hey, if I had people relocate and they are looking for clients, or if I have anybody that I know here that's looking for a new landscaper, are you still accepting clients? What's the best way for them to get a hold of you? Right. And this should hopefully, reciprocate into, yeah. If, anybody's having their house work done and I know they're about to list, I'll send them to you. Is that okay, Tim? That'd be great, Ted. Like, of course it is. That's the reason we're doing this. making sure we're building those allied resources. Think about, just write down 3 people that you know or businesses that you love. It doesn't have to be people that you know. You know, if you have your landscaper that you love, this is probably the cheat code. This is what you could do. This is great homework. If you wanted to, think about the town that you want to serve. Maybe it's the town in which you live, and you just call all your people and say, hey, I'm running a little bit of a beta test here. I wanted to talk to everybody that I know and love and trust and find out, if you were buying steak tips this weekend, where would you go? If you were getting cupcakes for a holiday, where would you go? If you're having a special cake made for an event or a birthday, where would you go? If you were getting your car worked on, where would you go? If your boys are getting a haircut or your husband's getting a haircut, where do they go? Where do you go for a stylist? Where do you go for a manicure pedicure? Who is your chiropractor? None of these are out of bounds, right? Because you let your people start to tell you who their person is. And if it gets to the point of the conversation, I look down and 15 people are sending me to this one mechanic. By the way, we all love Gino right next door here at Sunoco, next to the building. It's wildly convenient and he's awesome. Then I can call Gino and say, hey, Gino, Tim Lindsay with Keller Williams. Hey, I talked to all my agents. We actually ran like a survey. 67% of our agents say they bring their car to you. So I have to imagine you're busy. Although, are you accepting new clients? Yeah, of course, Tim. Awesome. So if I sent you new clients, that wouldn't be a problem. No. What's the best way for them to get a hold of you? Same number you called, 603-373-8020. I have it memorized. I send my cars over to Gino all the time. Super simple. You do some market research. You get your people involved, right? And if your friends ask, why are you doing this? I know you know where to get steak tips. Why are you asking me? I'm just I just wanted to make sure I get more input from the people who live in the town. I've got some people who might be relocating. Yeah, I'm with Keller Williams, remember? Oh, yeah, you're in real estate. Yeah, I am in real estate. Hey, how's that going? It's going great. Why do you ask? Oh, no, I just saw on the news, things are crazy. Well, there's a lot of energy going on right now. Yeah, there's a whole bunch going on for sure. I don't know if I'd call it crazy. It's been great, though. Hey, you know what? We are actually looking. Do you know anybody with a Craftsman style house? And they're so dead set. My clients are so dead set on a Craftsman style house. It just needs to be on the planet. Do you have any friends that own a Craftsman style house? And just to get them thinking, but it wasn't the reason I called. I called about cupcakes and haircuts, right? Don't overthink it. Geographic farming, a collection of homes. We are looking to target market a neighborhood. That's what geographic farming is for. We can do that with open houses, social media, our conversations, our contacts, and our notes. Maximize your prospecting and marketing in a geographic farm. It is best to target in on a neighborhood. Take it from there. A handful of streets. Then you go to a part of town. Then you go to the whole town. I think over focusing on more than and I'm talking about your mindset when you're looking at, where do I want to be the mayor? Where do I want my first sign in the first yard? Where do you want to start to run your listing business? I know with our buyers, we're going to go wherever they're shopping. Leverage for you is to pick the zip code in which you're going to be the mayor. Again, events and seminars. And of course, actually, as you guys get moving through, when you guys get to capper status at our market center, Zoe and I are going to ask you to teach stuff like Ignite. Above and beyond that, if there's an area of expertise that you have, we're going to ask you to teach stuff like that as you grow in this business. And before that, if you get influence in a certain club or you get pulled into somebody's school, we talked about before, if you can go back and speak at your alma mater about business opportunities. I know over at UNH, they run a great program where they actually get kids licensed over there, and they usually drag us over to talk to them about the opportunity in real estate. So there's massive opportunities with that. And it makes you the expert other. You're the person in the room that knows about real estate. Leads are everywhere. When you go to the grocery store, on purpose, especially if you historically see people there. And it might take a little bit more time, but do you walk the whole store? And I'm guilty of this. Like when I'm going into the grocery store, it's like head down. I'm heading in for two things, you know, but do you have your head up? Are you looking around? What if you do run into somebody? Is there an opportunity you might miss? Coffee shops. It's great to camp out at those, right? A lot of our agents will take certain days and sit at certain coffee shops and get their permission. Hey, would you have an issue if I was here from 9 to 12 every Tuesday? And actually moving forward, I'd love to run like a little contest and like from, you know, don't destroy your wallet. Make it after the morning rush. But like, hey, 9:30 to 10:30. I want to buy every other coffee for whoever comes in. They're never going to have an issue with it. One of our agents actually sits in the coffee shop of some people that he helped them buy their house. And they love him, and he sits there once a week, and it's been great. Because people are in there just like they're at their stylist or their barber or their chiropractor. People are talking about their life. They're standing there with their coffee, shooting the breeze. What comes up? Yeah, we're thinking of listing. Oh, my God. That's the guy that sold our house to us. He's sitting right over there. You should go meet him. The repair shop, right? I think we get in our own heads about this. Like, well, I would never bother Gino about real estate because I'm sure he knows a whole bunch of realtors. Okay, you just brought your car in for a full set of brakes. You're running your card right now for $1,200 because you just did pads and rotors. That gives you the same opportunity to ask your mechanic if he knows anybody or she knows anybody who wants to buy, sell, or invest. Just because they probably have a whole bunch of other realtors getting their brakes done doesn't exclude you from asking for the opportunity. Hair salon, the dentist office is tough. Like your face is pretty busy at that point. I don't know what kind of conversation you're having at that point. With the little air sucky hook. Not great. That's a tough one. Hey, hair salon, barber, all that kind of stuff. And if you've got a friend who has a shop, they're a stylist or they're a barber. And I know so many of us do this, like, oh, well, yeah, they get a little bulletin board and I got my card up there. Yeah, your card's up there with everybody else's card. Take it to the next level, plus it a little bit, especially at a stylist, right? I'm not picking on barber shops. I love my barber. He's out on First New Hampshire Turnpike in Northwood, Butcher's Barbershop. And he's a Marine, so it's just beer and guns and everything. It's awesome. But it's and his wife's a realtor, so it wouldn't work. This idea would not work with him. She'd be doing it with his shop. Anyway, your stylist, and she's so happy for you. And she's like, hey, yeah, if you want to leave your cards, that'd be great. Hey, do you mind if I plus that a little bit? Here's what I'm thinking, Stacy. You've got a beautiful shop. You do beautiful work. You have a certain clientele in here, which I appreciate. And I'm working into like luxury level listings. My next luxury listing, would you be okay with me getting, and I'll do all the work. If I got an ornate frame, I had a great picture of the house and we hung it somewhere in your shop, preferably if we could right over here by the mirror. So my luxury listings are sitting in your luxury shop and it becomes a conversation piece. Would that be okay? She'd probably be okay with it. It's a beautiful house and a beautiful frame in her shop. I would do that with a florist too and cross-pollinate, pun intended. The whole conversation is, hey, your flowers, your shop is amazing. I always get my stuff here with you. If I hung a picture of my latest luxury listing in your shop, would you then be willing to do a beautiful arrangement for the table at the open house that I do at this luxury listing? So my clients can see your work and your clients can see my work. They're probably not going to say no. If we don't ask, they definitely won't. They won't say anything if we don't ask. But if we offer them the opportunity to cross-pollinate our clientele, they're probably going to say yes. Connect with your sphere, build and feed your database. We're going to add people every day and communicate with it on a regular basis. Capture those leads from open houses. We talked about that with open houses. When you get that sign-in sheet from the open house, make sure you get back in touch with those people. Are you going to build that community with social media? Are you going to start that book club? Are you going to start that? There's something going on it was yesterday. I apologize. Brittany and Kaylee started mompreneurs here in the office, right? Little communities like that. Could you start a Facebook club like that? A book club, mountain biking, whatever it is. What are you doing for referrals right now? Are you asking your civilian friends for referrals? Are you checking with other agents about referral opportunities? Have you chosen your geographic farm to start door knocking or mailing to or circle dialing? And if you're just getting started, what might be your first event? That doesn't need to be cost prohibitive. It's already going on in the community and you can just attach yourself to it with a table or becoming part of the community. So in the workbook on page 95, it's got a list of questions. For your sphere, what would your strategy be? I'd say for the sphere, we're reaching out on the phone. When are you going to do that by? Please don't write December. Database, have you opened it? Are you feeding it? Have you done an open house yet? If you haven't, and you don't know how to get started, and you're thinking, well, I need a listing to do an open house, and I don't have one yet, Tim, I appreciate that. So you're going to go on Facebook, and you're going to ask this very question. Jump on Facebook, jump on our Facebook page, and introduce yourself, and just say, does anyone have an open house that I could shadow so I could learn your standard with the opportunity of hosting one for you in the future? I would go and shadow someone's open house, figure out how they want it done so I could do one for them maybe next weekend. Somebody calls you tonight and says, do you want to do an open house for me tomorrow at 10 o'clock? Don't do it. Now, I'm not telling you to not be helpful. That is a recipe for disaster. Does anyone have an open house that I could shadow so I could learn your standards so I could hold one open for you in the future? Social media, our 10-5-1, right? 10 hearts and likes, 5 comments of 5 words or more, 1 post, 1 share. What are we doing for referrals? Are you asking for them? Mike Hicks down in North Carolina, his entire team during the entire transaction is asking for referrals. They average 3 to 4 referrals per deal. That's obnoxious. And that's his one thing. That's what they do. Geographic farm, figure out where you want to be mayor. And then figure out how you're going to attack that conversation. Is it going to be door knocking? Is it going to be mailers? If you know there's a certain part of town that you want to be the mayor of, you could do EDDM, every door direct mail through the post office. If you go talk to them, they're going to explain to you there's different numbered routes. Route number 12 might encapsulate 3 of the 4 streets you want to be mayor of. So you're going to buy route number 12. There's X amount of houses. You bring your newsletters down to them in the envelopes, and they take it from there. And that's when you get stuff in the mail and it says current resident. That's EDDM. And then there's another level of that called informed delivery that a lot of people do, which is super cool. I get informed delivery sent to my Gmail every day. It shows me a scan of everything coming into my mailbox. And if anything in there is not black and white and it's color, I can click on it. So I could get a piece of mail from an agent that's physically showing up to my house that day. In the email, it's colored, not black and white. I click on that and it would take me to any landing page you want me to go to. So it might take me to a landing page that says, I want an equity update. Don't overthink it, guys. You're allowed to, because that's what we do, but don't waste time overthinking these things. Just start to take action. Don't forget 10 conversations, minimum. We want to make sure we're talking to 10 people a day. If yesterday you only talked to 4, that's better than 0. I'm just going to ask you to plus that. Our job every day is to out-hustle yesterday's version of us. Because you have to ask yourself, if you didn't talk to anybody yesterday where real estate came up, then we have to change our thought process behind what we're doing, why we're doing it, and how we're doing it. And we can help you with that. So if you're freaked out, reach out and give us a call. Add those people to your database. Send them the handwritten notes. Great running into you. Thank you for your time. Here's the business card you asked for. Look forward to seeing you soon. Talk to you soon. I would always do something to infer that I will be getting in touch with them. Not like, give me a call if you need anything. Terrible. Stop. Don't do that. Please don't do that. Please. The 10-5 one we just talked about, right? 10 likes or hearts, 5 comments, 5 words or more, 1 share, 1 post. And enrichments of those gifts of value, right? If you have, at some point, it might make sense. And a lot of agents do this in your trunk. You just have like 5 copies of the red book, 5 copies of Shift, maybe 5 copies of the blue book, which is basically the Millionaire Real Estate Investor. You give that to your young couple after they bought their first house, because maybe their next house is going to be an investment property. 5 copies of The One Thing, any book that you read that you like. Maybe it's Ryan Holiday, The Obstacle is the Way. And you just got those as gifts to give to somebody. And then after that, hey, I'd love for you to read this. I think it's going to help with the thing we were talking about today. I'm excited to hear what you think about it. I'll talk to you soon. And then you call them in a week. You enjoying that book? Oh, I haven't started it yet. And then you have the rest of the conversation. All right, I'll talk to you soon. Hey, don't forget to dig into that book. Love to hear your thoughts, right? TCPA, the Telephone Consumer Protection Act. This feels like such a disclaimer at this point because it is the do not call list. Don't get arrested. Don't get arrested. Don't get arrested. It's $43,000 per violation. It's not great. It's not great. And I say the 43,000. I mean, they could total up to that. See in the fine print, fines for violating a state DNC rule can vary from 100 to 25,000. I don't know. All the math is bad. It's all bad. It's almost 50 grand if you're not protecting yourself. So do not call.gov, get yourself an account, or call the people that you know and love and trust. If you're in relationship with somebody, they're never gonna turn you into the government. Dear God. I engage with every conversation in the spirit of contribution, and people are happy to be in relationship with me. We used to say in bold, they're home, they're happy, and they're going to list with me. You deliver value when you check in on another heartbeat in America and ask them how they're doing. I'm sorry I've missed you. I'm grateful for you. I was thinking about you. There's no wrong way to open that conversation. Just because they haven't called you is not the reason you shouldn't call them. I hear that all the time. I can't call Stacy. She hasn't talked to me in forever. Okay. You're immediately going to be a better person for making the call first. It's like the worst game of chicken. You're not going to talk to your friend Stacy because she hasn't called you. It's like some horrible standoff at the OK Corral. Pick up the phone. Give her a call. Make her feel heard and cared for. Not to mention the fact that we don't engage with each other enough anyway because of text and because of social media. We assume we know what's going on in their life. You might be the only verbal human interaction this person has today. That's powerful. What if your call today puts them in a better mindset, sets their head right for the weekend, makes them feel heard and cared for? Why would you not want to do that? And we have the math. No one's ever been insulted. Like, the humans aren't mad at you because you called and literally said, I'm so sorry it's been so long. I was thinking about you today. I wanted to give you a call. Nobody's gonna be like, bitch, it's been 7 years. Click. Like, nobody's doing that. That's not happening. And if it does happen, they're a terrible person. And there's a French word for that. Grab your phone, délaté. They're gone. We have to be okay with making the first move. We have to be okay at being the bigger person, making the phone call that's uncomfortable. All of your growth lays in the discomfort. And we have to be okay stepping into that. Monday, look at that. We got just under the wire. All the babbling I did today. Monday, we're talking about keeping every lead. That's session 10. We will be back here at 9 o'clock at Keller Ignite on Monday for that. Questions before we escape? Anyone? Christina. What's up, kid? No questions. You're muted. No? What's happening? Just nodding? Just nodding. There's no nothing?
There we go. All
Oh,
right.
there we go. What's up, kid?
I just like to listen to your voice and your funny saying.
I appreciate, well, remind Nathan to keep me on staff. That's all I need you to do. I appreciate that from a fellow staffer. If anybody doesn't know, Christina Carlton flies the ship up in Chickenboro, which I affectionately call Chickenboro. It's Wolfboro. Yeah.
And Meredith.
I know you're bopping back and forth. Yes, ma'am. Yes, the new news. Yes, the back
Right?
and forth between Meredith and Chickenboro. We love that. Thank you, Christina. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I do. And I actually learned quite a bit too. So
I love that. Well, there'll be a quiz just after lunch. So I hope you,
Perfect.
sharpen that sword.
I'll
All
make
right,
sure.
guys. I'm just going to shut this down for the recording sake. If you want to join me for the final segment of Power Through a Shift, we'll get that started in just a second. I'll see you on the other side, or I'll see you in and around the market center. Have a great weekend. See you guys.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.